Augusttown by Kai Miller. First, you must imagine the sky blue and cloudless, if that helps, or else the luminously black spread of night. Next, and this is the important bit, you must imagine yourself inside it, inside the sky, floating beside me. Below us, the green and blue disk of Earth. Now focus. 17 degrees north, 76 degrees west. Down there is the Caribbean, though not the bits you might have seen in a pretty little brochure. We are beyond the aquamarine waters, with their slow manatees and graceful sea turtles, and beyond the beaches littered with sweet almonds. We have gone inland. Down there is a dismal little valley on a dismal little island. Notice the hills, how one of them carries on its face a scar, a section where bulldozers and tractors have sunk their rusty talons into its cheeks, scraped away the bush and the trees, and left behind a wide crater of marl. The eyesore can be seen from 10 or more miles away. To the people who live in this valley, it feels as if they wear the scar on their own skin, as if a kind of ruin has befallen them. Seen from up here, the ramshackle valley looks like a pot of cornmeal porridge, rusting tin roofs stirred into its hot, bubbling vortex. Perhaps it is the dust bowls, the tracks of sand, and the dry riverbed that give the place this cornmealy look. The streets run in unplanned and sometimes maze-like directions. Paved roads often thin into dirt paths. Wide streets narrow into alleys lined with zinc or scrapboard fences. If solid concrete houses rise like sentinels at the beginning of a road, the architecture will devolve into clumsy board shacks by the time you get to the cul-de-sac. If on one road the houses are separated into tidy lots, on the road just over they are crowded together and lean into each other as if for comfort. This is a community that does not quite come together. We must imagine there was a time when all of this was beautiful and unscarred. A time when the hills were whole and green, verdant humps rolling up towards the blue mountain range above. A time when the valley was thick with guava trees, when wild parakeets flew above the forest, and fat iguanas sunbathed on river-smoothed rocks. But that is all we can do. Imagine. There is no forest anymore, and no more iguanas, and the mineral river that once flowed swiftly through the valley is now dammed up, its waters diverted to the city's reservoir. Where there was once a perfect green hill, there is now a scar, and where there was once a river, there is now just a dry riverbed, little boys playing football among its vast sands. Where there once was beauty, now there is just Augusttown, or sometimes Greater Augusttown if you listen to the island's city officials, who have seen fit to attach to it, like addendums, and nearby districts of Kintyre, Rockers, Bryce Hill, Dread Heights, and Gola. Down there, it is the 11th of April 1982, a day I have watched over and over again, as if from up here I could change things, could slip inside its hours and change the outcome. But I can only watch. For here is the truth. Each day contains much more than its own hours, or minutes, or seconds. In fact, it would be no exaggeration to say that every day contains all of history. Chapter 1. Blind people hear and taste and smell what other people cannot. And what Ma Taffy smells on this early afternoon makes her sit up straight. She smells it high and ripe and stink on the air, like a bright green jackfruit in season, being pulled to the rocky ground below. The smell is coming down John Golding Road, right alongside the boy child, something attached to him, like a spirit, but not quite. She has been hearing him for a while now, all the sniffling, hiccuping, short-of-breath sounds. But it is not the crying that makes Ma Taffy alert. There is nothing special in this. The old woman is used to the little boy coming from school, wet-eyed and vexed with the world for whatever injustice he feels has befallen him this time. A backbone, she often thinks to herself. That little boy is in need of a backbone. He has stopped crying now, yet something is still coming to the house with him. Something with a smell. So Ma Taffy is paying careful attention. A spliff glows idly between her fingers. She has abandoned it for the moment. She continues, however, to draw in breath after breath with the same slow deliberateness, holding on to it, trying to separate the things she knows from the things she does not know. She knows, for instance, the various smells of herself, the dull flavor of ganja fresh on her breath, the carbolic soap she washed with earlier, and underneath that, her own old woman smells. She knows the smell of the wooden house behind her, of the zinc fence rusting slowly, of the chicken coop round back, and even the smell of each of the 5 hens separate from the rank smell of the rooster. She can smell the mangoes and the cherries, and the Oahite apples ripening together, and then all the vague but distinct everyday smells of August Town. Coal fires burning, turn cornmeal turning, crack rice boiling, the sweat of black women standing over pots, the sweat of black men standing in the streets. And then there it is, behind all of it, something else. A smell slightly sour, but tight and choking like rats. Irie Tafari, otherwise known as Ma Taffy, is almost always calmly disposed, but the thought of rats make her twitch. It was over 10 years ago. They had been breeding in the roof, a whole colony. Rat Mama and Rat Papa having plenty rat picnic, and those plenty rat picnic having even more rat picnic, and it had created that smell, thin and sour and choking. There were the nightly scuttling sounds, and before long, rat shit started to drizzle around the house like a small intermittent rain. Ma Taffy should have known long before the terrible thing happened that it was going to happen. On that night, she had been dreaming of a whistling sound. It was all around her. The whistling grew into a moaning. She opened her eyes, but it was so dark that she couldn't see the ever-expanding belly of the ceiling, how it was creakily reaching towards her. But she heard, above the moaning, the frantic rats shrieking, hissing, swearing, chattering. The roof gave out with a pop, and she finally saw them. Hundreds of the snake-tailed rodents falling towards her, scrabbling the air, their beady eyes shining red in the dark. Strange, Ma Taffy sometimes thinks, how a coming autumn collapse had made her open her eyes wide in anticipation, instead of closing them for protection. The rats gouged out one eye completely and badly damaged the other. If she tips her head to a certain angle and looks out of her lower portion, she can manage to see a shadowy grey world. But this takes so much effort and reveals so little that Ma Taffy hardly does so. Instead, she has grown used to the darkness. Ma Taffy lifts the spliff back to her mouth. She is growing nervous. Another coming auto collapse. "Steady your heart, Taffy," she whispered to herself. "Steady." Ma Taffy is already the great expert of steadiness. This is a woman who sits in the self-same spot where she is sitting now. No matter how the world tilts around her, she once sat there during a whole hurricane. And even worse, whenever the bad men and rude boys of August Town are trading bullets with Babylon or with themselves, while almost everyone else in August Town is locked tight inside their houses, Ma Taffy just sits out there, steady, steady, blinking her useless eyes. 2 years earlier, when the newly formed Angola gang found themselves under siege by the police, Ma Taffy did even more than just stay inside. She stood up, reached for her cane, and walked down the stairs of her veranda. She walked straight into the middle of the road and into the line of fire. At once, the bullet stopped. Ma Taffy stood regal in the road. Her dreadlocks were piled on top of her head, a green and yellow turban wrapped around them. She knew that from their hiding place the Angola boys were watching her, confused, and that from another hiding place the police were also watching, probably making desperate hand gestures. Ma Taffy alone was steady and sure. She walked just a few hundred yards over to the half-built house that had been abandoned years ago, it probably having occurred to the owners that if one had enough money to build a house, then one had enough money to leave August Town. Thick cerasee vines now grew through the concrete, drawing the structure back into the vegetation. Ma Taffy stepped through the open doorway, and 5 road boys looked up, their faces suddenly softened by a kind of innocence. They were just boys after all, though they tried not to let this show. One of them, no more than 17, shook himself out of his embarrassment and addressed Ma Taffy. "Old woman, what you come here for? Go back to your house." Ma Taffy turned her face toward the voice. Her yellowed eye found the face it wanted and seemed to scrutinize it. After a moment, the man boy added more respectfully, "Please, Ma Taffy, it's not safe out here." The old woman remained silent. There were many things she was being careful not to say, and yet, in the quiet of the moment, the shadow of these things passed clearly between herself and the man boy. "Listen, boy, who not too long ago was still sucking milk from him mama titty. Don't pass your place with me." Ma Taffy's lips weren't moving, and yet the man boy was hearing the old woman's voice in his head. Her voice continued, "I understand them calling you soft pa now, and maybe that is right. Maybe every boy picnic when him get to a certain age should have a say in him own name, 'cause he don't get to choose much else in this life. But Marlon is the name me know you as since you was just a little bitty boy running up on my veranda, hiding behind my skirt from your mama long belt." Ma Taffy paused and swallowed, and then the shadow of the unsaid things grew thicker and darker. "Listen, me know what them did do to P.T. Me know for the past 2 months he was doing yard work for a woman who live up in our pastures. Me know how this woman must did get it into her head that him thief money from off her table, and that she called Babylon to report him. From the same veranda over there, I sit and hear everything. I hear when Babylon come into August Town the night, the sound of them jeeps like they was crushing more than just the stones on the road. They stop in front of the rum bar, go inside and drag P.T. out. P.T., who was already so deep on them whites that he never understand what was going on. And I hear how them address him. Dirty yard boy! What he doing with the woman money?" This was a new corporal boy, a tall maga fellow who so maga that if he turned sideways, you almost don't see him at all. Is him who take out the rifle and use the butt and cuff P.T. hard on him head, so hard that P.T. fall to the ground and blood start run down him face, and same time he get sober. This tall maga corporal, like maybe he trying to prove just how big and bad him is, getting more irate for no reason at all. He start to shout at P.T., "Tell me right now what you do with the woman rascal money." And P.T. now just shaking him head, the blood dripping from him forehead into him eye, and him just saying the same thing over and over, calm like, trying not to cause no trouble. "Me no know nothing about money, officer. Me no take nobody money." This corporal boy then spit on the ground, and him lean over and push him face right up to P.T. "You's a fucking thief," he whisper. P.T. say again, with a little more strength this time, "Me a no thief." and he begin to reach into him pocket. It happened so quick, the corporal boy raise him rifle, turn it round, and Petey's head explode like a bright green jackfruit that fall and bust on the ground below. They strap Petey's body to the front of the jeep as if he was nothing but a wild hog they catch up in Blue Mountain, and they drive round Augustown. And you might remember, Soft Pa, how we was all so quiet then. But Babylon never understand that ours was the quiet of old and hungry tigers who wondering if they maybe have the strength to pounce. Cause if Babylon did understand that, then they would have know to look a little bit scared as well. And they would have wonder maybe if them did really have the muscle to fight way off if we did pounce. They drive out at last and they take Petey with them. Soft Pa, me knows you did go out into the road later that night and find the wallet that Petey was reaching into him pocket for. And when you opened it, there was nothing more than $5 the woman from Opasas did pay him for work him did do. Not a thing more. But we hear it on the radio, the self-same story that Babylon always decide to tell. How them come into Augustown to look for a known criminal. How the criminal opened fire upon them, and how them did return fire and kill him. You say that this thing don't concern old people like me, but that is only cause you're still talking with titty milk in your mouth. Excuse me language. Little boy, you're too young. You don't know fully the fight you involved in and how long it been going on for. What you fighting is Babylon system. All them things in this life that put a heavy stone on the heads of people like you and me. All them things that cause we not to rise. Sure. Somehow we been fighting that fight a long time. Long time now. When the shadow of these things had finished passing between the two, the man-boy trembled a little. Ma Taffy turned her yellow eye away and said aloud for the first time a simple instruction. Follow me. Listen, old woman. Soft Pa began to protest, but Ma Taffy was already walking toward the back of the house, stepping through another open doorway, this one leading towards the river. Soft Pa shook his head but followed. I soon come back, he whispered to the others. Soft Pa had earned his name because of how lightly he was able to step, soft like a cat, materializing in front of people like a ghost, and yet soft and soundless as he was able to move. The blind woman moved even softer. As they went around the circumference of Augustown, Soft Pa fought to keep up. They had walked almost a mile before the old woman stopped. You know where you're there? Yes, Ma Taffy. Willie's corner shop perched just up there above us. Inside you will find the tall Maga corporal. She lowered her face and spat. Rascal coward. Not even have the courage to be where the other Babylon boy is fighting the fight where him start. The old woman was quiet for a moment and then said, Go and do what you don't decide you have to do. Soft Pa pulled the gun from where he had stuffed it into the back of his pants. His waistband slapped against his taut and muscular back. He seemed to weigh the gun between his hands, and for the second time that day he was a child again, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. Ma Taffy started to say something but stopped. She knew she had to allow him to be a man and a warrior in his own way. She turned and walked back the same way she had come from. Soft Pa slunk up to the corner shop. Ma Taffy hadn't walked for a minute before the retort of the Glock seemed to suck all the silence out of the world. She felt the sound in every wrinkle of her face, and then she felt it in her chest. She stopped where she was. In a moment, the grass behind her was being trampled. Soft Pa was no longer taking soft steps. He was running. She heard his ragged breaths and felt the wind as he ran past. It was a hot day. Even without being able to see, Ma Taffy knew that the Mona River was so low it was not flowing. It was, instead, a series of stagnant ponds from which mosquitoes were hatching every second. She felt the insects around her face and her arms. She heard them in her ears. She took a breath and continued, steady, steady, back to her house. This is the Ma Taffy I have always known. Nothing ever rattles her. So it is strange that on this afternoon, lifting her head to the wind, she is instructing herself to stay calm. The smell is thick now. She knows the little boy is turning into the yard, climbing the steps onto the veranda towards her. "Where mommy there?" he asks. It is a useless question. The boy already knows that his mother, Gina, is at work. This is not the point of his question, and Ma Taffy understands that. He wants his mother, who will stand up for him, who will protect and avenge him, not Ma Taffy, who will tell him no nonsense about backbone and how important it is to stand up on his own. Gina has inherited Ma Taffy's backbone and knows how to stand up to her, and anybody who knows how to stand up to Ma Taffy can stand up to anyone. This is what Kea has reasoned in his own mind. This is why he wants his mother right now. When the gunfights break out in Augustown, Gina is not pleased. While Ma Taffy will sit quietly on the veranda, Gina will walk up and down in a great agitation. The guns in the distance will pop, bap, 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 while her rubber sandals go clip-clop, clip-clop. The clip-clop pause, then build again. Pause, then build again. Their cadence is finally reaching a full explosion. What gunfighting ever do to solve anything? Tell me that, auntie. What they really think of all that is they think all of this is going to do? Them so fucking short-sighted, the whole lot of them. Not 1 ounce of good any of this warring going to do, except kill way off. Ma Taffy would have been waiting for this, and would now turn her head towards Gina. They're doing what they feel them have to do, child. Defending us. You could have little sympathy, Gina would offer, because even though in these discussions they were adversaries, it remained her duty to supply the old woman with words whenever she couldn't find them. Yes, thank you, Ma Taffy would say. That is the word I'm looking for. You could have little sympathy for what them doing out there. Nobody ever come and ask me if I need defending. I don't need protection from no gunman. Not everybody can be like you, Gina. She is a force of nature, this Gina, smart and headstrong. And so Ma Taffy understands why the boy wants to see her now. But the boy's mother will not be back for another hour or two. So Ma Taffy pats the spot on the bench right beside her. Come, little boy, she says. Come sit down beside your grandma. In fact, she is the boy's great aunt. But in this household, and to everyone in Augustown, it seems an unnecessary distinction to make. The boy sits. The old woman sniffs the air again and almost gags. She puts her hand on the boy's knee. Kaya makes a whimpering sound and draws very close to her, his head now resting on the old woman's shoulder. Ma Taffy decides it is not yet time to ask, "What is the matter? Who trouble you?" She knows that whatever is going to happen, whatever is going to pour out into the world, it will pour out soon enough. It will happen, as certain as the midnight rain of rats. And if she can hold it off for just a little longer, she will. So instead, she asks a question that surprises even herself as she asks it. "Kaya, I ever tell about the flying preacher man?" Kaya looks up. For a small moment he forgets about the day. For just a small moment his newly dulled eyes shimmer again. He shakes his head. He feels the afternoon breeze soft and light on his scalp. "No." He pouts the word over a thumb he has been sucking. "You never tell me no story like that before." Well, 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 Ma Taffy says, sitting back and returning the spliff to her mouth. She exhales a cloud of ganja that envelops herself and the boy. She turns her face toward the scarred hillside, as if the story she's about to tell exists there. Shame on me! Every little youth from Augustown ought to know the story of the flying preacher man. End of chapter 1.